For a getaway that gets you to all the things you love, there's only one place to go. It's Missouri, where there's something for every traveler. Whether you're the outdoor type, the sit back and relax type, or the get up and go type, you're the Missouri type. So I have just one question. What's your MO? Find yours at visitmo.com.
We're getting our kicks on Route 66.
For more than 50 years, Route 66 was the epitome of the all-American vacation. It offered sightseers the beautiful, the bountiful, and the just plain bizarre. Fast food was invented on its shoulders, and when the long day's journey stretched into night, the silent siren call of neon split the darkness. Abundant motor courts and motels meant you never had to stray far from the mother road. Come daylight, a new adventure awaited just beyond the horizon.
I'm Meredith Haynes. Thanks for joining me on another exploration of Missouri life. Today, we're embarking on a journey down one of the most iconic roads in the world, Route 66. Running from Chicago to Los Angeles, it cuts right through the heart of Missouri, starting right here in St. Louis and ending in Joplin. But we can't drive down the main street of America in just any car. We're gonna need something a bit more classic.
Getting your kicks on Route 66 is a phrase that embodies the idea that it's all about the journey, not just the destination. That's why we're taking our trip in style. I'll be driving with the top down in a candy apple red 1966 Ford Mustang convertible. At over 70,000 models sold back in its heyday, it is the best-selling Mustang of all time. The new 66 Mustang convertible featured a new grille front, a side grille, and possibly its most identifiable mark, the side ornamentation. Also a new feature of its time was the AM/FM radio for optimum highway cruising enjoyment. This iconic classic car was completely restored last year, just in time to take us on our expedition down Route 66. Oil checked, gas tank full, seatbelts buckled. It's time to hit the road. Developed in the mid-1920s, Route 66 covered 2,448 miles, stretching all the way from Chicago to Santa Monica, connecting rural communities in its wake. Generations of families would find adventure along the Mother Road, traveling to destinations like Disneyland, the Grand Canyon, and the Painted Forest, providing opportunities for hotels, motels, restaurants, gas stations, and roadside attractions to thrive on the growing tourism. By 1931, Route 66 had been completely paved in Missouri, initiating the era of America's Main Street, from St. Louis to Joplin. So now we begin our journey at, well, our beginning. St. Louis was the first Missouri city to greet incoming travelers from Illinois, welcoming them with a scenic view of the Mississippi River as they crossed the Chain of Rocks Bridge. Once a picturesque trailhead for the Missouri section of Route 66, it now serves as a magnificent pathway for those seeking to reminisce about the golden era of American roadway travel. To find out more about this historic piece of Route 66 architecture, we met up with historian Andrew Wonko to bridge the past and the present.
Andrew, we're on Old Route 66, the Chain of Rocks Bridge.
Yes.
This is the gateway into Missouri. for this classic roadway.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the bridge. Like, where did its name come from?
Yeah, so the Chain of Rocks is kind of a weird name for a bridge.
It is.
So actually, if you go out and look at the Mississippi River, you'll see this big rock formation out in the middle of the river. Back in the old days, the old sort of steamboat era, back in the 1800s, it was well known that that was one of the most dangerous spots on the Mississippi River coming into St. Louis. So people named it the Chain of Rocks because it's literally a chain of big, huge rocks out in the middle of the river. They're still there today, and you can still see the sort of waterfall formation that goes over them. So the Chain of Rocks Bridge was built in the 1920s, but it actually didn't start carrying Route 66 until the 1930s. Route 66 is kind of weird in St. Louis. If you go out to little small towns, it's usually the main street of the town. Well, St. Louis was huge, so they had multiple different entries into St. Louis on Route 66. There was actually 5 different bridges that carried Route 66 into St. Louis. 4 of them are downtown, and then the Chain of Rocks Bridge is out here. This was the bypass if you wanted to go wide out around St. Louis and sort of avoid all the traffic downtown. Chain of Rocks carried Route 66 from 1935 all the way up to 1965, so through the road's heyday, sort of the big sort of American automobile era. This was the way a lot of people were first coming into Missouri. The Mississippi River was a huge tourism draw. People could not wait to see this really amazing river. You know, you gotta imagine if you're someone from Chicago or someone further east, you've never seen the Mississippi River before,
Right.
but you've heard about it. It's
How big
really
and massive
yeah,
it is.
it's this amazing part of our natural landscape. Coming across this bridge would be your first glimpse at it, and I can imagine for a lot of people it was pretty amazing to see. The bridge we're standing on here doesn't look very wide. This is actually both lanes of traffic. You can imagine what kind of problem this was as more and more people own cars, trying to get them all across a bridge this big. A lot of Route 66 was called Bloody 66, and you can see why, because you can imagine facing down a tractor trailer on this very tight, I think the bridge is only about 20 feet wide for both lanes of traffic. So it really was a problem. The interstates were definitely a needed piece of American infrastructure, but the downside is it caused a lot of people to go out of business. All the people who owned businesses, even this bridge, went out of business after the interstate opened next door.
When was it open to pedestrian bicycles? Like it's now become a walkway.
Yes. So the Chain of Rocks Bridge closed in 1970, and from that point on, it just got worse and worse. It was sitting here, it was sort of a big eyesore, nobody really knew what to do with it. There was actually some talks with the Army that they could maybe blow it up for target practice, because that would get rid of the bridge and it would let them have some much needed tactical practice. But that never happened, of course. In 1980, the Chain of Rocks Bridge was one of many St. Louis locations that was featured in the film Escape from New York with Kurt Russell, standing in for a post-apocalyptic Manhattan because the bridge was just in terrible shape. So it sat here for a long time, nobody really knew what to do, but finally in the late 1990s, TrailNet reopened it as a pedestrian and bicycle greenway. I think it was in 1999. The bridge reopened to the public, and now it's a much beloved piece of Route 66 tourism, which is a huge draw to the St. Louis area.
You have a little architectural background.
Right.
This isn't just as straight as what it looks.
Yes.
As you look down, it looks straight, but you say it's not.
Yeah, so the bridge is so long you can't really see it from here, but if you go out to the middle, the bridge actually bends in half, which is a really weird way to build a bridge. Usually bridges go straight across a river. So the people who built this bridge, they owned 2 pieces of land on either side of the river, and they were determined to build a bridge, but the pieces of land didn't actually line up right across from each other. So they decided they were going to build the bridge on a diagonal across the river. Well, the Army Corps of Engineers said there's no way you're going to build a diagonal bridge that ships have to try to navigate through. So they forced them to build half of it facing even with the river, and then the other half makes a big sharp bend. So it has a 22-degree bend out in the middle of the river where the bridge actually changes direction.
How long do you think the walkway is?
It's probably a good mile. Which is great if you're a pedestrian using it and want to get in a little exercise. So it's a really fun walk, a beautiful view of the Mississippi River. You can see downtown St. Louis in the distance. It's really, really a great walk.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for coming out,
Absolutely.
joining us this early morning.
Yes.
Would you like to take a walk?
Sure.
You got time?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's go.
Walking across the Chain of Rocks Bridge gave us a somewhat intimidating yet breathtaking view of the mighty Mississippi. After some exercise on a hot Missouri day, I was in need of a frozen treat to cool me down. so I hopped behind the wheel of the '66 Mustang and made my way to grab a mid-afternoon snack at Ted Drew's Frozen Custard, a St. Louis staple since 1929, where we find a taste of local tradition. This shop serves many delectable sweet treats, including its signature world-famous frozen custard concretes, shakes, and sundaes. Travis Dillon was kind enough to give us the scoop on this local hotspot.
Travis, you help run an iconic St. Louis business.
Isn't it great?
Ted Drew's is great. It is great. You also just happen to sit on a very iconic piece of American roadway. How does that work out?
Well, worked out pretty good. You know, when Ted was a little boy, his mom and dad had him come in from outside and said, "Teddy, guess what? We're going to be on Route 66." And they were excited about it. And they built this store in 1941.
You are still a Route 66 attraction. People pull off because they know that this was part of that iconic era for a lot of people.
It's true. And there are a lot of people, even internationally, that are so interested in it. And now, even today, this week we had 4 buses just traveling the route, and they were all international, and it was great. And I was lucky enough to get on the buses to talk to them about it too. I happen to be here, and I love doing that. So.
What kind of questions do people ask about either Ted Drew's or Route 66?
Well, most of them don't even ask about Route 66. They just ask about Ted Drew's. You know, how in the world did this building stand this long? Or how do you wait on people so long? Or when was this building built? So I give them a little bit of history and why, you know, how are you here? I mean, you look older. Why are you working in an ice cream store? So, but I tell them the story and the history, and it's a wonderful history to talk about. When my father-in-law was excited, along with his mom and dad, just to get a place, because this was the only route out of the main route out of St. Louis. So, gosh, there were only 1 or 2 cars occasionally coming by. And when they opened a store, Ted would tell me it was just he and Dottie, his wife. They would just stand here, maybe doing this on the counter, waiting for someone to come out. But it got busier and busier, and the business grew from that just because of Route 66.
I think this is a wonderful piece of property and history, and it hasn't changed.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. We try to keep the look of it. And, you know, one other thing about Ted, he thought about it. I guess Ted's father, buy a large lot and do a little building, and you'd always have parking. Well, we still have parking, but not quite enough anymore. We have 66 spots, as a matter of fact. So.
Well, people were waiting in line at 11 o'clock this morning, and that's every day?
Just about every day, on a nice day for sure.
Well, I think it's a hot day, and I'm ready for some custard if you're willing to serve some up.
Let's do it.
All right, thank you so much for bringing us today.
Nice to
It is nice to see you.
Travis treated us to the classic flavor of Ted Drew's frozen custard, and needless to say, I wasn't disappointed. It was easy to taste why so many travelers from all over the world come to enjoy this essential stop along their trek. Oh, and if you do get a chance to pick up a delectable dessert, I recommend the lemon custard with a fresh fruit.
St. Louis is home to many more hidden treasures of Route 66, like the Gateway Arch, the Museum of Transportation, the Donut Drive-In, just to name a few. But now I think it's time to see what this baby can do as we head to Cuba, Missouri.
Route 66 pioneers enjoyed the ride more than the destination, and honestly, there's really nothing like driving down this road in a classic Mustang with the top down. And nothing really messes up your hair like that either. My only regret was passing by even more gems residing on our path. Route 66 takes us right through the heart of our next stop, Cuba, Missouri. As I enjoyed my cruise, it was easy to see that the people of this city have brought a whole new meaning to paint the town.
14 public works of art are on display here in Cuba, earning the city the nickname, the City of Murals. Artists of all different backgrounds came together to share their depictions of local and even national history for the Viva Cuba Mural project. It's the city where history meets art and art is larger than life.
The murals celebrate the history and mystery of Cuba's heritage, including dramatic war battles and a mysterious stopover by Amelia Earhart. Every mural has a story. There's so much history here, they're definitely going to need more walls. The Cuba Visitor Center has all the information you'll need for a tour, as well as a beautiful, massive sculpture celebrating the Osage Trail Legacy Monument Project, the only known monument to the Osage Nation in the state of Missouri. At 35 feet tall, it depicts an Osage family traveling westward along the Osage Trail. It's definitely larger than life. Neon signage is an undeniably nostalgic part of Route 66. For decades, giant neon motel signs would lure people traveling along Missouri's stretch of the iconic highway. The first of many we encounter is at the Wagon Wheel Motel.
The Wagon Wheel Motel is a charming place to take a rest for the night if you're on an extended trip on Route 66. It's the oldest continuously operated motel on the historic road at just over 80 years. With its stone architecture, outdoor sitting areas, and fire pits, it's a quaint place to take a little R&R.
As I pass through Cuba, I realize there are so many things that will grab your attention. Art, vintage signs, neon lights. You don't have to look very hard. Just outside of town, down Route 66, a 42-foot piece of furniture was one of those.
If you're a weary traveler looking to refuel with a snack, the Fanning Outpost should be the next stop on your journey. With over 300 glass soda bottles and endless flavors of fudge and gourmet popcorn, you're sure to get the sugar rush you need to get back on the road. Oh, and did I mention it's home to the world's second largest rocking chair?
Established in 2007 as a feed and hunting supply store and souvenir shop, just southwest of Cuba on Route 66, it's now the perfect stop to stock up on Route 66 merchandise, enjoy tasty snacks for the road, and encounter some true Ozark hospitality. The popcorn is popped right in the store, guaranteeing fresh, bold, and true flavors every day. It was difficult to choose from the popcorn variety, and to wash it down, a choice of soda from a wall of bottled options. Finally, I relaxed on the porch swing with my cream soda and caramel popcorn as I prepared to hit the road. Cuba, Missouri has it all. Picturesque murals, breathtaking landscapes, remarkable history, and spirit present in the attractions. It all helps make small towns great. But for now, we resume our joyride down to Rolla. A key stop along the iconic Route 66, Rolla is more than just a passing landmark. It's where the grand opening of Route 66 across Missouri was celebrated in 1931. As the route cuts through the heart of town, travelers are reminded of Rolla's deep ties to the road's storied history. Standing as a testament to that era is the historic Hotel Edwin Long. Once a bustling hub for travelers, it's now home to the Phelps County Bank. But the hotel's history has not been forgotten.
We are in the home of Phelps County Bank, and prior to that, it was the Edwin Long Hotel. A fabulous facility. It was completed in the spring of 1931, and it was kind of rushed to completion to house and to host the ribbon cutting of Route 66 in the state of Missouri. The governor was here. There were 8,000 people that showed up to a town of just about 3,600. So it was quite an expansion of the town, and it stretched our resources quite a bit. There is a medallion on the corner of 8th and Pine Street that signifies the location that the ribbon cutting took place. Rolla was selected to be the dedication location because of its central location, halfway between Springfield and St. Louis, and it was easy for everyone to get to. Back in 1931, it wasn't that easy to travel across the road. It wasn't one of these, it was a full day trip to get down from St. Louis or up from Springfield. Being on the main route, From Los Angeles to Chicago, many celebrities traveled up this road. And Marilyn Monroe was here, and many other folks, and stayed in this building. Marilyn slept here. Any main corridor that you would come through. And that holds true of all Route 66. All the stops, the main stops along the way, people were filled with celebrity, even the trains that came through. We see just smatterings of emphasis on the route and on the fact that this was the main road and the mother road. So there are a few businesses that are taking advantage of that marketing opportunity, but I think it will grow over time, because when I traveled the entire route from Chicago to Santa Monica with my daughter, I saw towns just alive because of the route. What you see along the route are the remains of what was here when the route came through, when it was in its heyday. The old cars, you see remnants, you see old skeleton, old bones of old hotels and old restaurants and old houses that are still there, and that's kind of the foundation for the Americana, the signage. You can see, as you drive down the route, you can see the 1930s style, the 1940s style, the 1950s style of architecture, and cars that are maybe skeletons along the road. And those are the things that make Americana. Those are things that were made in America. Those are the things that are copied by other countries now to make it look like they were made in America. But I think the essence and soul of it are the skeletons and the ghosts that are left on the route. And that, to me, is what Americana is. Missouri is the real kickoff to what Route 66 is. Illinois, it's broken up just a little bit. Missouri, it starts to get really serious. And then the skeletons start showing up as you get further out west. And it reminds you of what it must have felt like for a traveler in the day, taking their family down on this adventure, because it gets so different. As the farther west you go, the more different it gets. There's millions of attractions along the route. There's wonderful stories and wonderful people all along the route, but the road itself is the story.
Rolla offers a unique blend of history and charm, making it a must-see on any Route 66 journey. With the grand opening of Route 66 and historic Hotel Edwin Long in the rearview mirror, let's head down to Pulaski County. Formed in 1833, Pulaski County has seen its fair share of people coming and going throughout the Route 66 era and beyond. But the Mother Road in Pulaski County holds special appeal for modern-day travelers with its blend of natural preservation, historic landmarks, and quirky roadside attractions, like a frog rock. The town of Waynesville, which began as a trading post, welcomed stagecoaches and wagons long before classic vehicles, and the stagecoach stop in the town square has been there through it all.
The Stagecoach stop in Waynesville. It was built in the 1850s. Since then, it has served as a stagecoach stop, a tavern, a hotel, Civil War era hospital, a dentist's office, even a boarding house for workers building nearby Fort Leonard Wood. Today, it's a 10-room museum, with each room representing an era of the building's history.
Pulaski County has a rich history and no shortage of things to see or do, including getting your kicks on the county's 33 original miles of historic Route 66. The old two-lane highway winds its way through various towns and communities, including Devil's Elbow, which has yet another piece of unique bridge architecture and arguably some of the most beautiful scenery to be found along Missouri's stretch of the route.
Laura, we are sitting in front of a very iconic bridge for anybody who loves Route 66.
Yes, we are. This bridge is well known all around the world.
And is this Devil's Elbow Bridge?
Devil's Elbow is a village. It's actually just on the other side of the bridge. It first became a little bit of a settled area because tie rafters would cut down timber from the surrounding hillsides around the Big Piney, and to get them to market, they would float them down this river. There's actually 2 bridges down in the Devil's Elbow area, but this is the first bridge that was built across this river. And this bridge actually predates Route 66. It was actually built whenever Missouri Highway 14 went across the river here. And then whenever Route 66 came along in 1926, of course, it was part of it. This was the crossing. There's only 2 bridges on Route 66 that have a curve to them. I believe you guys visited one of them earlier, the Chain of Rocks Bridge, and this is the second one. But this one is the only one that's still open to traffic. The bridge was officially dedicated July 4th, 1924. So to me, this bridge, 4th of July, Americana, it's all right there.
And this is the big Piney River behind us, which is beautiful.
Yes, it's gorgeous. It's a great place to fish and go floating.
So Route 66 cuts through kind of the backwoods of Missouri in this area, or was this like an offshoot of Route 66?
Actually, this is the first original alignment that came through the area. Then whenever Fort Leonard Wood was established, there was so much traffic and heavy equipment that they went ahead and they built what they called back then a super section of Route 66, and that's going to be just a little bit whatever direction that is from us. This bridge is a wonderful place to meet people from all over the world and all over the United States. I like to come out here and take pictures, and I'll see people from England, from the Czech Republic, from France. It's always a different variety of people that are seeking out the old road and looking for true Americana.
Laura, I wanted to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate you visiting us.
Winding through the rugged beauty of Devil's Elbow, we head west toward Lebanon, another important stop along Route 66. Arriving in town, we find refuge at the Manor House Inn, a timeless haven that perfectly captures the spirit of the Mother Road. Built in 1903, this Route 66 retreat opened as a motel in the early 30s and has been in operation ever since. A mansion of its era, the building still serves as a B&B for weary travelers. Route 66 is abundant with a variety of places to stay and has been since its glory days. One of the first here in Pulaski County was built in 1927 by Charles and Lita Spears, Camp Joy. From a campground full of tents to quaint cabins, this charming camp community is cherished by locals and the family who still hold on to many memories this place created. Craig Fischel, one of the Spears' grandchildren, shared with us some of those stories.
Craig, your time spent in Lebanon was at a very special place called Camp Joy, and it was a staple on Route 66. How did it even come to be?
Well, my great-grandparents decided to have a motor court on Route 66 and drove from Nebraska in 1927 to Phoenix, Arizona. They got to Phoenix and there were already 4 camps there, so they decided to drive Route 66 east. And when they got into Pulaski County, Lebanon, they stopped and they counted cars with out-of-state license plates. That was their market research. Determined that there were enough out-of-state cars, they set up a campsite, and it was called Camp Joy. And they had about 30 cabins they'd rent out. And before they modernized the cabins, they had an area out in the very center that was a concrete slab, and they had chairs and everything. And there was no TV, there was no air conditioning, so people would come out. And I remember sitting there, listening to my grandparents have conversations. It was a much more social environment that they'd come out of their cabins. Once they put air conditioning and TVs in, that ended it. And as time went by and I-44 went by and left Route 66 on the side, business started slowing down, so they started converting some of the units into monthly rentals. And so it went from tent camping to monthly rentals until the early 70s when my grandmother sold it.
What do you think Route 66 means? Part of your early years were still, a pretty flourishing Route 66. And then today, explain Route 66 then and now.
I think it's connecting us back together. It's something of our history that was kind of ignored for many years. Now it's pretty much an economic driver in a lot of areas. I mean, people from all over the world come to drive Route 66.
Where we're sitting today in the cabin behind us is actually, what, like maybe a mile?
About a mile up from where it was originally built. Well, it was the last cabin left on the property. And the people here in Lebanon, incredible group of folks, decided that they would honor Camp Joy. And you know, in our family, Camp Joy is a love. And as we leave this place, it's a memory in our hearts. This is a memory that we love, but we had it. Now it's been put in history, and we're just blown away by the efforts and the amount of work it took to move this building 1 mile down the road.
How does it feel knowing that the city seems to love Camp Joy just as much as the family who is behind Camp Joy loves it?
Emotional, yeah.
Craig, thank you so much for sitting down and walking us backwards in time to those fond memories you have of Camp Joy.
It's an honor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Lebanon is clearly an attractive and unmissable presence on the iconic roadway of Route 66, and its welcoming residents made our stay an absolute joy. But now we head further southwest to Springfield, Missouri. Our next stop takes us to the heart of downtown Springfield, where the story comes alive at the History Museum on the Square. Located on the city square, this museum stands as a gateway to Springfield's rich past, with exhibits celebrating the town's deep connections to Route 66 and beyond. Today, we meet John Sellers for a deeper dive into the history of Springfield and its role in the Mother Road's legacy.
You guys have a floor dedicated to just Route 66.
Route 66 had such a significant impact on our community. And one of the people that was at the birthing of Route 66 and really husbanded that growth and that participation was a man who also was integral in the first half of the 20th century in the growth and development of the city of Springfield, John T. Woodruff. And we call ourselves the birthplace of Route 66 because of that, and because the telegram asking that the number 66 be awarded to the highway from Chicago to LA was sent from here at the Colonial Hotel under the auspices of Mr. Woodruff and Cyrus Avery, who was here for a meeting. And they got together and realized that 66 had not been awarded to anyone, and they sent off a telegram to Washington, D.C. and said, if everybody's in agreement, we'd like to have that number for the highway.
But why did they pick 66?
It was catchy, it looked good. It looked good on paper, it looked good on, well, think about it, Campbell 66, Phillips 66 Petroleum. All of those things were integral in 66 and how it looked.
That was what year, 1926? Okay, 1926. But Route 66 didn't really explode into nostalgia until several decades later.
It was not even fully paved until 1938. So it was just, there were gravel portions of it and unpaved portions and so on. The romance of it came into fruition later on and really blossomed across the country with the song, You Get Your Kicks on Route 66, that Bobby Troop wrote, and then was popularized by Nat King Cole, people like that. The books that were written about people, packing up everything during the Dust Bowl era and making their way to someplace for a better life for their families. All of that type of thing built and built and built into a cachet, into a background that people just fell in love with. It symbolized people's efforts to improve themselves and make things better.
What does the boom do to all of the places located on Route 66?
If Route 66 came through your community, it made a significant difference. Motels and hotels and restaurants and gas stations and all those things blossomed you didn't have just one corner gas station like Mayberry. You had gas station, gas station, gas station, gas station all the way through town, because they all had a piece of the pie. They all had a piece of this herd of travelers. But we had places like Red's Giant Hamburger that was an amazing. Red Cheney and his wife Julia had this hamburger joint, and they were having so many travelers come through in cars that he came up with the idea of a drive-through window and put a drive-through window in the side of this old house that they were their restaurant was in, for people to drive up and place their orders and get their food passed out to them in their car and drive on.
So the drive-through was also birthed here in Springfield. What happened to Route 66 when interstates got put in?
People got in a hurry. And they got in a hurry in a way that really affected a lot of these communities. It was really detrimental to a lot of these communities that had depended on that traffic. It also changed the way we look at the communities. Every community had its own restaurants and its own service stations and its own everything. And they were unique and defined that community. And now all of a sudden and there's nothing against it, but now it's all fast food places that there's one in every town, the same one. And there's gas stations, there's one in town that's the same one. So it homogenized your experience as you drive across the country. You have to get off that beaten path and into these little towns and drive on Route 66. And that's what's revitalizing so much of it right now, with people coming from all over the world that are traveling Route 66 and driving through these small towns rather than driving around them.
Do you think that's when people use the word Americana? Because Americana is often connected to Route 66.
Right,
Do you think that's
I think
what
so.
it is?
I think that's part of it. I think it points out the similarities and the differences in all of us. We don't realize how uniform we all are, but at the same time, we don't realize how different we all are and how we need to celebrate that and feel good about how we as a group of like-minded people with tremendous differences and different backgrounds and opinions have come together to make this country what it is.
What would you tell somebody who is debating whether they should come and check out Route 66?
Come see us. There's so much to do, so much to see. Come to the museum. Enjoy, staying in one of the old rock motels. We've got several of them that are open along Route 66 through the city. Great places to eat. It's a wonderful city, great place to grow up in.
Sitting right on Route 66 in Springfield, you'll find the College Street Cafe, a beloved local spot with deep roots in the community. The cafe serves up classic comfort food with a warm, welcoming atmosphere that captures the spirit of the Mother Road. It's more than just a stop for a meal, it's a slice of local history and hospitality.
I'm Mary Lou Myrodi, and this is College Street Cafe on Route 66 in Springfield, Missouri. It was started by a local couple in the early 50s. I've had the cafe for going on 9 years now, and it's just a family restaurant, family atmosphere, home-cooked foods, and we love our guests, all our guests, whether they're from Vienna, Austria, whether they're from Canada, but most important, our guests right here in Springfield. It make it feel like family. Originally 9 years ago, I would have just said it was a cool thing that, we're on Route 66. But in the last 9 years, we have so many guests from Texas, Florida, France, just all over the world, people have came here. And when you go inside, you'll see signatures on the walls from all over. And we've just met so many wonderful people. And food brings us all together. Some people will start out being real cantankerous and crabby, and by the time they leave, they're like happy, But I think food has a way of making people happy too, when it's good food. What I think Americana is about is being our best that we can be. And through that best, I mean kindness, treating people with respect, whether they come in that door with big bank to spend, or it's the lady who's just making it by and wants a cup of coffee. I think here, at least, in our Americana, we think everybody deserves a nice place to sit, and our coffee, we've tried to keep it at a reasonable price. Let's face it, I'm too old to be a millionaire. If I ain't one by now, I'm never gonna be a millionaire. So coffee's $1.49, pie's $2.99. Sell it fresh, keep it fresh, and that's what we do.
Our next stop brings us to the Route 66 Car Museum in Springfield, Missouri, where the legacy of the road is intertwined with the history of the automobile. Route 66 and classic cars share an inseparable bond, as the open road has long been a symbol of freedom and adventure for motorists. Here, the museum showcases an impressive collection of vintage vehicles as it pays honor to the trend-setting highway.
When you walk in here, what is it like to be surrounded by beauty? Because these cars are beautiful.
Well, you know, when you walk in and you see the different colors of the cars, the different styles of the cars, you know, the ages of the cars, how well they're preserved. And you notice the lines of the cars, you know, how they're designed, how they're not like that today. It's just like a work of art.
And a little bit of a time travel. I mean, there's cars where you feel like, oh, I mean, there's one from 1907, and I'm pretty sure those are lamps on the front that had to be lit.
That is called the brass era. And so, yeah, you're right, they're brass lamps. And that was how they drove them back then. That was how the people traveled. Yeah, because we've got cars, you know, from the 30s, and they're more round, more bulbous is what I call it. And then, you know, you've got your, you know, the ones from the 60s, a little more sleeker. You know, they're more square, you know, more compact compared to those big things from the 30s, you know.
We're learning that Route 66 really kind of grew with how automobiles grew, and it was in the 30s and the 40s, but for me, Route 66 really feels like the 50s, and you think about those types of cars.
Yeah, and I think that's what everybody associates it with. You know, we think about people that originally traveled that road in these cars and how long it took them to get from point A to point B with some of the, you know, some of the motors that they did have in the 20s and 30s that are so different than they are today.
So what's the favorite aspect about being on Route 66, having a business on Route, still a part of Route 66?
I think sharing this place with other people and getting to meet the people from all over the world that have an appreciation for it. You know, it kind of makes you appreciate it more yourself, you know, because we live here, we can kind of take it for granted. And when you sit and think about it, it's like, oh, yeah, this is, this is really a special place to be.
Tucked away in Springfield, Missouri, just a short detour from Route 66, you'll find Mother's Brewing Company, a local favorite that captures the spirit of community and craft. Known for its unique brews and welcoming atmosphere, Mother's Brewing has become a must-visit spot for both locals and travelers. With each sip, you taste the creativity and pride that goes into their craft, making it a perfect stop to relax and recharge along the journey.
Beer is made with love, right? And for us, there's no more symbolic way to talk about love and do what you love than talking about where does love come from? How can people identify with love? And everyone identifies with a mother's love. And so for us in Springfield, Mother's Brewing Company was born. We actually started in 2011, and this building you're sitting in was actually an old bakery around in 1926 at the start of Route 66. And in 2011, we transformed it into Mother's Brewing Company. Route 66, at least in our minds, is all about adventure and love for your country, right? And still today, we have so many visitors that come by from across the world that share that same passion. That passion is exactly what we put into the beer here. So it melds really well together. It's manufacturing, it's Americana, it's what this country is built on. And so for Mother's Brewing Company, it could not have been a better location. For me, being Americana is about being productive, loving what you do, and having a happy life. And I don't know what else would describe Mother's Brewing Company, but that's what we talk about when we talk about Americana. Being on Route 66 has helped define us as we have aged. So it's easy to say we're on Route 66, but the visitors that we get from literally across the world give us their input on what they love in beer. We have numerous styles of beer that we're able to share with them that are delighting their taste buds. And so we know that we're on track with a lot of what we're doing. And we see it when we have those return visitors from around the globe. And it's not because of Mothers, but what it is, it's Route 66, and Mothers is a part of the journey. The resurgence of the long haul drive, the cross-country trip, that's what's driving this Route 66 Love Fest right now. I think it's incredibly important to celebrate where you've come from. Communities are doubling down when it comes to Route 66 in terms of investing. You can see it in Springfield along all the way from Chicago to LA. You're seeing those motels and hotels being renovated. You're seeing the gas stations being renovated. Because again, when we talk about Americana, that's another piece that most countries around the world can't emulate, and it is unique to America. What is interesting to me and why I love being a part of this is it's an immediate connection to usually a great memory and something that is worth repeating.
As we wrap up our visit to Springfield, Missouri, we've experienced the rich tapestry of history, culture, and local flavor that defines this vibrant city, offering a unique blend of old and new. Each stop has deepened our appreciation for Route 66 and the communities it connects. So, with new memories and insights, we continue our journey down the Mother Road, eager to see what awaits us next in Carthage, Missouri. The first thing to catch my eye in Carthage was the majestic and very castle-like courthouse of Jasper County. Located in the Carthage Square, it's one of Missouri's finest and is on the National Register of Historic Places. Just down Route 66 from this magnificent structure is the Route 66 Drive-In. It's an unmissable landmark residing along our path. Families travel from all over to experience the nostalgia of the classic American drive-in culture. We joined Nathan McDonald to celebrate the 70th anniversary of this dazzling theater.
Nathan, how excited are you for tonight?
We're very excited, very excited. We've been planning this for a long time and we're ready to go.
And how many years is tonight?
70 years. We're celebrating 70 years on this property as a drive-in theater.
So walk me back. The 66 Drive-In is an iconic part and an integral part of Carthage's history.
It's very ingrained in the area, not to mention the drive-in theater in society as a whole. It opened in September 1949, ran strong about the time of the nation was starting to have its love affair with vehicles and hitting the open road and getting out of the house. And it ran strong until the mid-1980s, whenever the decline happened for a lot of drive-in theaters. The walk-in theaters are taking a little bit wider stance. It closed down in 1985 and opened as a junkyard from 1985 to 1996, still themed around vehicles, oddly enough, as a junkyard. And then it opened back up in 97, and it's been running strong since 1997.
We're learning on our Route 66 travels that there's something about these pieces of history that they maybe get forgotten, but then people decide that they're going to grab a hold and bring it back. It's the same with Route 66. It's the same with this drive-in. Is that how you kind of are seeing the drive-in?
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, when you drive through the gates of the drive-in theater, especially this one, it's not so much about what's on the screen, it's about the experience. It's about the playground down front where kids play. It's the smell of popcorn popping. It's the carefree environment where you can put your phones down. You can leave everything at the gate. You come in here and just enjoy the atmosphere. I tell people all the time, it's about the atmosphere. It's about true Americana, the way it used to be when we weren't so tech savvy. It's just detaching and being with one another as family and as friends and just enjoying a great film underneath the stars.
What are the trends and how do people watch nowadays?
Well, Southwest Missouri is going to be a truck. And a lot of people bring their trucks in, they back in. So I worked here for many years before I bought the property, and we would come here as a family and we would back our truck in. And in the back we'd have pillows, blankets, air mattresses, and we would just sit because it's a double feature, so it could be 4 hours of film with a 10 or 15 minute intermission. So, just like your setup. It's like you're camping and it's without a tent. You set up in the back of the truck, we lay back, we get popcorn crumbs everywhere, and we just enjoy what's on the screen. So this year I opened all the big Disney films with Avengers and Lion King and all those. But then a couple times a year I like to just take a step back. And this year I had a throwback weekend where I showed The Goonies and Sandlot, which is 2 classics. Tonight, celebrate 70 years, I'm showing The Wizard of Oz. We like to take the step back. We do really well when we have a throwback weekend because it just really encompasses the whole atmosphere we're after. But at the same time, hot movies are hot movies, and we want to be able to compete, so we show the state-of-the-art ones as well.
I was, I think, around 13, and I went to a drive-in in Omaha, Nebraska, and even then, we had something that we turned on and like hooked on the side of the car.
Yes.
When we were watching. There's none of that right here.
Right.
Where did that go?
Right. That went away with technology, so we talked about it. Now it's all FM transmitted, so it comes through the radio. We still have a couple poles here and there that have the old speakers on them, and they're mainly just for pictures. But I have enough trouble with people driving, hitting my poles. I can imagine how many wires I'd be rewiring from driving off of them, still attached to their window. But it's just as technology goes with a digital projector, we need to stay with that, and so it's all FM transmitted.
How does Route 66 play in with the 66 drive-in?
It's such a big part. So the Route 66 alone is such a massive piece of just us as society. If you go back to the 40s, 50s, and 60s, if we think about the movie Cars, which was such a big push, that's true. When the interstate system come along, it kind of got forgotten. Well, now it's just taking a whole bigger step. And for us, being the nostalgic theater we are on Route 66, those two things combined together and just makes my business plan easy. And makes me be able to run a good, clean environment to where you take that step back. But it's extremely important to the success of the business is that, oddly enough, that slab of pavement out there.
Well, I know you're getting ready to get the show started, so
yes.
Thank you so much for having us tonight. We're so excited for the Wizard of Oz.
Well, we're glad you're here.
After a night under the silver screen, we made our way to yet another location that has seen the rise and fall of Route 66. Local artist Lowell Davis experienced firsthand the decline of Main Street, USA in his hometown of Red Oak. Still clinging to his roots, Lowell recreated his abandoned town by relocating original structures and founding Red Oak 2, a place that is now a pleasant remembrance of the quaint, small-town beauty of the early Route 66 era.
There's a little town called Red Oak, and it's 23 miles from here on Old 66. Well, it's a mile and a half off of 66. And both sides of my ancestors pioneered it, and it had a lot of meaning to me. But then the Second World War broke out, and they all moved off to defense plants in the military, and they never really came back after the war. And so it kind of slowly turned into a ghost town and kept falling apart and falling apart. So I just started picking it up and moving it here for no rhyme or reason. It certainly wasn't a business venture, there's no money to be made on it, but just being able to do it and let people enjoy it and come by and enjoy it. I like to sit on my front porch and enjoy the kids and things playing and running around. I just sit on my front porch and smoke my pipe and drink my coffee and enjoy the day.
Your home is right behind us. Is there a favorite building or monument sitting here on the property?
There's several of them, yeah.
Tell me about it.
Okay, where I live is Belle Starr. She was a notorious woman outlaw. And went and researched it all, and sure enough, that's where she was born. And so we picked it up and moved it here. Down to the end of town is Dalton Gang House from Oklahoma. We bought it all the way from Oklahoma, so there's that one. Most of them have a lot of meaning to me, That's my grandmother's house down in the end. That general store over there, I was raised in the back of it, and that's my grandfather's blacksmith shop, and so on. And so it just has a lot of memories to me.
We are sitting right outside of your art gallery. Mm-hmm. When did you become an artist?
When I dubbed my first box of Corollas out, I thought, wow, this is it, And so I've never been anything else. It's an artist, that's all. I have no desire to be anything. My mind is crazy. You know, I don't watch TV or do anything like that. I don't need it. I can sit on my front porch and I just visualize everything, make an art out of it, whether it's a sculpture or painting or mural or whatever. Just what's going on in my crazy mind.
And then the rest is history?
The rest is history.
Where were you when Route 66 was in its heyday?
I used to live on Route 66 when I was a little kid. Come to Red Oak, you go out of Red Oak to 66 and there was a gas station there. And we lived in the back of that gas station. I like to travel 66, you know, when I'd like to go out west and see how all the mom and pop places promoted themselves, you know. So that played a big role in Red Oak, is watching how they grew and things. And then when the Second World War broke out, I guess y'all know why all these freeways started coming in, because Eisenhower saw Germany and what they did with the Autobahn. And so that was a big push to make all our highways like Autobahns around here. I don't know, it just took away so much, you know, when that happened. All the mom and pop places started disappearing off the map, and you know, as I say, I used to go out west when I was young and seeing all the excitement and everything was going on out in the deserts and all that, and then that all came to an end. And
when did you feel that started to come back? When did you see that pick up?
I'm watching it now, you know, because I saw it at the bottom, you know, and so there's so many people now that's realizing what they're losing and trying to bring it back like I do, but in a different way. It might be their gas stations, it might be their motels or swimming pools or whatever, but you know, it's just now catching on. It's coming, you know, they're rolling up their sleeves and doing something about it.
I'd like to shake your hand.
Hey,
thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With Red Oak and Carthage in the rearview mirror, I enjoyed the last handful of Missouri Route 66 miles in the Mustang before arriving at our final location. As the last major city before the Missouri-Kansas border, Joplin is still a bustling metropolis with plenty of Mother Road nostalgia to share, some of which includes notorious visits from the infamous Bonnie and Clyde. During their rampage across the Midwest, this dastardly duo engaged in a shootout with local authorities during their stay at what is now a historic landmark. To this day, you can still find a bullet hole or two in the walls.
This is the Bonnie and Clyde hideout apartment in Joplin, Missouri. This is the last of the best kept places that Bonnie and Clyde either hid out or lived in of all the places of their life. It's really noted along the Route 66 as a place to must see in Joplin, and it's where they had a shootout here in 1933. They were vacationing here basically. They'd spent almost 2 weeks here. And they picked this house because of its high ground. They had 360-degree view around the house. They could hide the vehicles inside the garage, and they had a staircase that actually had garage access. So totally a good hideout place for gangsters, because they could do all they wanted to do without being seen by the police. And that's kind of what happened. Was this was a time when Prohibition in America was being lifted. In Missouri had lifted Prohibition on beer, not on spirits. So with a gun went off and some constables were summoned to come check it out. They thought there's maybe some hoodlums drinking some hooch or something down here. And when they approached the house, it was about 4 or 5 different people, Joplin Police Department, as well as a Newton County constable. Buck or Clyde or somebody saw what was going on, and a shootout ensued, and they took off heading for Arkansas. We did have 2 constables that were killed, one Newton County constable and one Joplin police officer were killed here on the site. And their families are still here, so every year in April, when it is the anniversary, we kind of remember them as well as what happened. One of the significant things for law enforcement is back in this time frame, the FBI didn't even carry guns. A lot of law enforcement guys carry their own hunting guns, maybe their pistols or their shotguns. And it really changed what law enforcement would do, how they approached the gangster era after the shootout here. They didn't know who Bonnie was at that time frame, because they knew who Buck was and Clyde, because they both had been in prison. JD had been in prison, and Blanche had visited Buck in prison, but they didn't know who Bonnie was. In the pursuit of them leaving here so quickly, Bonnie left her cameras behind. So a lot of those infamous pictures of her with her foot up on the bumper and she's got a gun at the constable and a cigar, our newspaper developed those. She left her cameras here and those pictures came out of this house. And after that point, law enforcement knew who she was, knew who the entire gang was, and were able to track them down. And a year later, in Arcadia, Louisiana, it's when they were actually gunned down and the era of Bonnie and Clyde came to an end. It's our important part of history. We're very thankful the house is still here and we can have people. It is an Airbnb. So if people do want to come Route 66 to Joplin and stay the night and be a part of that, enjoy part of history.
We've seen beautiful displays of neon signage on our journey down Route 66. To round out our trip, it's only fitting we end on an establishment with one of the biggest and most brilliant signs. Wilder Steakhouse has been in operation since the dawn of Route 66 and has served travelers from all over the world. Marcia Paulus opened the doors for us to take a closer look.
Marcia, I have to say, you guys have wonderful steaks.
Thank you.
I have eaten in your restaurant. They're delicious.
I appreciate that.
This has been a staple for Joplin for how many decades?
Oh my goodness. Now you've asked me a math question.
Are you at 100?
The building is past 100. It's
right.
from 1908. Mr. Wilder started something here in 1929, but it wasn't a restaurant until about 1932.
You are not technically right directly on Route 66, but he was a very wise man in making sure people noticed him from Route 66.
Had to take advantage of Route 66, the mother road. You know, that was the only way to travel. There wasn't an I-44. So yeah, we're 5 blocks from Route 66, but he put a very large neon sign that had motion to it up on top of the building. So you can definitely see it from 5 blocks away, and to draw those travelers in.
What were some of the changes that you guys saw in that time
Well, we didn't see them, but I'm sure that they were probably detrimental to him, you know, because he had relied on that traffic coming through. But he also had time and years to establish local, and we see that today. We have a lot of people come from Tulsa, Springfield, Arkansas, Kansas City to eat here. When we first started 22 years ago, I didn't notice so many people talking about they were traveling Route 66. But within the last probably 6 years, it's really had a resurgence. That kind of goes back to our sign as well, because we were able to get a grant to redo our top sign because of Route 66.
Was the sign dark for a while?
The sign was dark. We had lights shining on it, and it was a $48,000 project. But that was just another resurgence of Route 66, and that was for anywhere from Chicago to San Diego.
You were also telling me that he had once turned this into like a men's club?
Yeah, Mr. Wilder was wild. He had a bordello upstairs, he had gambling upstairs, and this room that we're in was pretty much just for gentlemen. And then on the other side of this wall was a little diner and the restaurant for families, and anyone was welcome there. The front of the building was blown off at one time because up in the gambling part of the restaurant. And it's believed that it was the mafia from Kansas City came down, and Mr. Wilder wouldn't give him a cut of his action, and so they tried to kill him because the bomb went off right above his private office, which was upstairs. There again, that was during the height of Route 66 opening, and the gangsters were all up and down Route 66. So, who knows who did eat here, but Bonnie and Clyde never did.
Thank you so much for having us. This is the end of our Route 66 tour, and I think it was a great highlight to end on. So we appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you so much.
Interstates may have damaged Route 66's momentum, but the Main Street of America is very much alive. The stories I've heard, the people I've met, the resurrection of this iconic road's communities continue to captivate visitors, not just from the U.S., but but from all over the world. Route 66 has immortalized classic Americana for generations to come. I'm Meredith Haynes. On behalf of Missouri Life, thanks for joining us on this journey, and don't forget to spark your spirit of discovery and experience Missouri Life.
On our journey, we've relived a time from the past when a road trip was more exploration and less destination. The subtle difference between getting there and getting there. It might be more efficient to take the interstate, but it certainly isn't more desirable. A fair portion of the original Route 66 has changed over time, having been cannibalized by the interstate system. But what remains is more than enough to retrace the steps of America's vacation pioneers. The kicks are still there if you know where to look. To share with us your experiences along the Main Street of America, send us your anecdotes, photos, and suggestions to info@MissouriLife.com for possible inclusion in future editions of Missouri Life's Guide to Missouri's Route 66. From everyone at Missouri Life Magazine and myself, thanks for watching, and tune in next time to spark your spirit of discovery and experience Missouri Life.
Missouri Life Magazine explores and celebrates the people, places, history, and destinations that make our state unique. Subscriptions to Missouri Life Magazine are available at MissouriLife.com. For exclusive content, full episodes, and much, much more, subscribe to the Missouri Life channel on YouTube and enjoy the journey at your own pace.
I need to be smacked around a little bit. Wake up. I don't think that coffee was strong enough. Whack.
Great. All right. Well, good job on the first take. Is that a first take?
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Holy moly! I just asked, like, you didn't pack it up. Let's go home.
All right.
But now I think it's time to see what this baby can do as we head to Cuba, Missouri. It's not starting?
You broke the car. Yeah.
Established in 1950 by Glenn Wrinkle. Sorry, I thought you dropped that. I heard that flag and I was like...
Then I married Rose, and then she made me clean up my act, and I can't do the cartoons anymore. And she made me quit smoking cigarettes. She made me quit going to bars. She made me quit chasing women. And now I'm down to a corncob pipe, and that's about all I got left.
She sounds like a good influence.
Yeah, oh yes.
Is there anything I haven't asked you about?
My sex life.
I don't need to know that at all. I am good. I am good.